going inside the issues of our community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
I need to be real clear with everybody on this issue of the streetcar. I know there's been a lot of conversation about the current budget situation that we're in and questions about why we would proceed with a streetcar. In city after city, across this nation and around this world, cities that have developed streetcars have seen a tremendous economic development impact. Portland is an example that everyone likes to point to, and it's great that we can point to it. In Portland, they spent $120 million in their first initial investment, and that led to $3 billion in development.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. Over the past 10 to 12 years, Cincinnatians have been traveling to Portland, Oregon to study for themselves how a modern system of rail-based public transportation can drive economic development. About 5 years ago, I made that trip. Before leaving, I was focused on Portland's light rail system and its use of an urban growth boundary. I had not focused on their streetcar line at all. In fact, I didn't know it existed. But once we arrived, I became totally captivated by the transformative impact of the streetcar. Last week, Cincinnati Mayor Mark Mallory joined that column of Cincinnatians who have visited Portland in search of clues about the relationship of modern streetcar lines and economic development. I am joined this morning by Cincinnati Mayor Mark Mallory. Mark, welcome back.
Thank you. Always great to be here.
Have you been to Portland before, or was this your first time to personally be out there, ride the streetcars and see it for yourself?
I had not been to Portland before, but I've been to many other cities that have streetcar systems, and we finally were able to work the schedule out so I could get to Portland and see very directly the economic development, the economic impact that the development of streetcars in Portland has had on that city. They have seen a tremendous amount of new housing, recapturing of historic buildings. They've seen new office buildings being built, parks. I mean, all of these great assets that any city would want, they have seen all along their streetcar line.
Well, you know, one of the things too, and it's not just the streetcar, Portland's got a lot of things going on,
right.
But it's not just the streetcar, but over the past, 25, 30 years, Portland has seen people move back into the city limits. They've been building their population at the very time that most mid-sized cities have been losing it to the suburbs. I mean, that's one of the basic impacts here.
Well, and one of the reasons they've been able to do that is because they have an integrated system of public transportation that includes buses, streetcars, and light rail. We, of course, would like to do the same thing here. Portland has an ability to draw people from across the country, even if they don't have a job. They just see Portland as a great place to live and they move there and they start their job search once they get there. We, of course, are growing for the first time in 50 years, certainly not at the rate that Portland is, but of the cities in this nation that are really growing, that are really doing something, they have integrated systems of public transportation that work.
Let's be clear, Portland isn't the only place that has a modern streetcar. Is that right?
And when we say modern streetcar, we have to keep in mind, we're not talking about the San Francisco trolley that everybody visualizes when they think of a streetcar. We're talking about a streetcar system that basically involves a train on tracks. It's a very modern looking deal, and cities that have streetcars in this country include Charlotte, Dallas, Galveston, Little Rock, Memphis, Minneapolis, New Orleans, Philadelphia, of course, Portland, San Francisco, Seattle, Tampa. There's also a long list of cities that are planning to do streetcars: Atlanta, Austin, Baltimore, Cleveland is thinking about it, Dayton's thinking about it, Fort Worth, Milwaukee, Providence, Salt Lake City, St. Louis. The list goes on and on and on.
While you've been reading that, we've had some footage up about showing people a modern car out in Portland, or cars actually. We've seen multiple shots here. These are very smooth, very quiet, very different than if people are old enough to even remember our streetcar system. We're not talking about the same technology at all.
Oh, absolutely not. These are it's a very sophisticated system. At each stop, it tells you exactly how long it will be before the next car arrives. The cars are all tracked by GPS systems that we all have in our cars now, or we've bought the little units. You can also go online or go on your BlackBerry, to determine when the streetcar is going to be there next. And it's a really good way of moving people around the city. But more than that, a properly designed system of transportation means huge gains in the area of economic development.
You know, before we get off of Portland itself, I guess one question that emerges, I personally, I know a lot of people who have gone to Portland, and they all come away impressed with what Portland's done with this. But I do think there is a question here, is how comparable is Portland to Cincinnati? You know, Portland is innovative, it's very progressive. Some people would argue it's where the 1960s people all moved and are hanging around out there. And it's a different culture, a different society. Do you think what's happening in Portland is in fact transferable to Cincinnati?
Well, certainly. There's a lot going on in Portland that we'd like to see here. We also have a lot going on in Cincinnati. We shouldn't shortchange ourselves. We have 2 professional sports teams. We have all these wonderful arts and cultural institutions, our great educational institutions. We've got 9 Fortune 500 companies that are headquartered in this region. Those are tremendous assets to build on. There are a lot of great things going on in this city. I will say that we are in a position right now where we've got to make the investments in integrated transportation so that we can link all of those things up, connect them all up, make sure that there's great mobility within and around this city, and put people to work. Keep in mind that the construction of the streetcar itself initially puts people to work, and the economic development that we see along the lines keeps people at work, continues to add jobs to the city.
You know, we have a map of the system that's been proposed that we'll put up here. Some people have argued that, well, the line doesn't really go very far, and it doesn't go to, we see it on the screen now, it doesn't go to any place that anybody wants to go. Usually meaning over the Rhine, Findlay Market, who wants to go there? And those are people who haven't been there on Saturday morning. But
exactly.
The point is, what about that line? Why that path?
Well, first of all, it's important to start somewhere. When you're building a huge transportation infrastructure, you have to start somewhere. You can't build out the whole system at once. Secondly, we have decided, and this is with the help of a lot of experts in the area of transportation and economic development, that say connect up your 2 biggest employment centers. Downtown is a huge employment center. There are 80,000 plus people that work there every day. The uptown area is the next largest employment center in this area, 65,000 people that work there every day. The strategy is to connect up those 2 employment centers, and you'll see a tremendous amount of movement between the 2 and a tremendous amount of economic development.
You know, the other piece of this, or the other connection, basically when you're talking about this kind of development, you're talking about long-term economic development. We have a short-term crisis. We have a big hole in the city budget, and one of the arguments is we shouldn't be doing anything. We shouldn't be diverting funds from what we have to do right now in this economic downturn. We shouldn't be starting anything new. We should be hunkering down, cutting where we can, and waiting till things get better. What do you say to that?
Well, there's a separation that has to occur. The budget situation that we're in right now is very, very short term. We're going to figure it out for this year. We're going to figure it out for next year. The investment that we are making in the streetcar is a long-term investment. That's an investment that will pay back over time.
How does it pay back, though?
It pays back in the form of the creation of jobs, which is where we get the bulk of our money. Let's just break this down for a second. We receive most of our revenues, most of the money that we have to spend in the city, from people's earnings, tax, from the profit that businesses make, we tax that as well, and from increased property values. The streetcar line that has been put on in cities all around the world have done all 3 of those things. They've increased the number of jobs in the area, they've expanded businesses in the area, made businesses more profitable, and they tend to increase property values. So those are the 3 major components of how we get our money. Those are the very 3 things that the streetcar will increase. Now, we can't take money that we're planning on spending on the streetcar and hire police officers with it. It's capital money, and a lot of people have a difficult time understanding the difference. But this is money that can only be used for the construction of things.
But does it mean that money that we could use to hire police officers, we could shift that over to capital and therefore being diverted? I understand that we can't take capital and move it over here.
We would absolutely not do that.
Well, where's all this money going to come from?
Most of the money is going to come from the federal government and the state government. Some of it's going to come from our capital funds, and some of it's going to come from the private sector as well. So our portion of the $128 million that'll be spent on this initial phase is relatively small compared to the amount of money we expect to get from the federal and the state government. Keep in mind that the governor, the president of the state of Ohio, have prioritized the development of rail, passenger rail service throughout this entire region in the form of streetcars, light rail, and high-speed rail. This is something that the nation wants to see happen.
Well, you know, the opponents to this, and we'll do a whole show when we get into the election cycle on this, and we'll have people on both sides. But the opponents of this, their argument is, in the ballot issue that is going to go on to the ballot, is that the voters should vote on this themselves. What's wrong with letting voters vote? Why shouldn't citizens be allowed to vote on this?
Well, two issues. The citizens will have the opportunity to vote this November. And what they're going to have to decide is if they want to have to come back to the polls to vote on every single component of every aspect of passenger rail development in the city of Cincinnati. They have to understand that with the money that will be coming from the federal government and from the state of Ohio, they may not wait to find out the outcome of our decision. They may take the money and move it to Cleveland. They may take the money and send it to St. Louis. So that's the reality of the situation. Voters are going to be free to decide this November. I hope that they will decide that you elect a mayor and a council to guide and lead the city, and you know, there will be opportunities at any point to throw us out. This November is one.
Yeah, representative government versus direct democracy is what we're really talking about. On the state, that state high-speed rail also have a map indicating that, and I think one of the, and Governor Strickland has weighed in on this, that if this should pass this fall, and here's a map showing that high-speed rail from Cleveland through Columbus down to Cincinnati, I mean, we literally, and this is part, by the way, of a larger vision of a whole Midwest hub system of high-speed rail. Mm-hmm. The city of Cincinnati could end up being isolated if this thing passes in the fall. Isn't that right? Well,
we would definitely be isolated. Right now, as we sit, Cincinnati is best positioned to take advantage of money from the state and federal government to develop passenger rail, better than Columbus, better than Cleveland. If this ballot measure passes in November and we have to come back to the ballot each time for each component, that will really slow things down, and we will be behind Columbus and Cleveland. Not a position I want Cincinnati to be in.
You know, and I think, again, we have to stress this. If Cincinnati doesn't tap this federal money and this state money, it's not like, oh, well, we'll save that for the nation. It'll go someplace.
Doesn't work that way. The federal government does not sit around and wait for a locality to figure out what they're doing and then give them money. They go to the communities that are ready to go. And the President of the United States has made it very clear that in order for this money to have the maximum impact, it has to be spent on rail development now, has to be soon. Because that, of course, creates jobs, it creates the economic impact that he wants to see us have in order to bring us out of this recession.
Let's focus on the budget a little bit. We're taping on Friday morning. This won't be aired until Sunday, so things could change a bit. But at this point, are you at the position that you even know numbers of layoffs, or is this still, you know, I know that the manager has put out to departments they have to cut X amount of money, and how they do that, there's still some flexibility. Do you have any sense of how this is playing out, though, yet?
Not yet. The manager did tell department heads they have a certain amount of money they need to cut out of their budgets. If they can figure out how to cut that money out of their budgets without laying people off, that, of course, is welcome news. The information as of the recording of this show is still being gathered, still being compiled, so we don't know the answer yet on the number of layoffs. Just after this taping today, I will be meeting with members of Cincinnati City Council to see if there are ways that we can figure out other cost-saving measures that will keep us from having to lay people off. Nobody at City Hall wants to see anybody laid off.
Particularly sensitive area is the whole area of police, first responders of various, police and fire. But in the case of the police, the city got a federal grant of $13.5 million. Am I right on that
yes.
figure? this week. I mean, that was really welcome news. But if I'm reading things correctly, you'd already been counting on that. So that's not 13.5 of new money. That would have only been, if we hadn't gotten it, would have been a bigger crisis. Is that right?
Yeah, that $13.5 million will allow us to retain 50 police officers. We were already planning on getting that money, so it won't have an effect on possible layoffs.
One of the ways that I have had some people tell me that of raising both short-term and long-term cash is selling assets. Mm-hmm. And the question I have is, one of the assets that's on the table, is the city actively negotiating for the sale of the Cincinnati Southern Railroad?
Absolutely not. You know, this is one of the things that I talk about all the time, about having commitment to future generations. The people of Cincinnati in the 1870s had a commitment to future generations. They knew that the development of a rail line in that time wouldn't necessarily benefit them in some great way, but it would benefit Cincinnatians in the future. For the record, there were a lot of people who were opposed to the construction of that rail line in those days.
We were unique in terms of a city building its own railroad.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and still are.
We still are.
And we still are.
And luckily, we still have that railroad that we lease to Norfolk Southern, and it brings in close to $20 million a year. That's a fantastic investment that was made in the 1870s that we are enjoying today. And I challenge Cincinnatians today to make the same kind of investment in the streetcar, so that our children and our children's children will see the benefit of that development.
But I want to be clarified, because I thought at council the other day this was raised, and the answer from the manager was that negotiations were going on to sell that.
Well, I'm not sure what the manager said. I'm the mayor, and from my position, I don't have an interest in selling the railroad.
Okay. One of the ironies about the railroad is that a lot of the proceeds from the railroad in the 60s and 70s went to building the interstate highway system, which I just find unbelievable. Any way that some of that $20 million that we get every year could end up going to build the streetcar and a modern rail transportation system?
Well, my understanding of what we do with the money that we get from the lease that we have with Norfolk Southern is that it goes into the General Revenue Fund. Again, we don't want to use General Revenue Fund dollars to construct a streetcar. We want to make sure that we have as much money available to hire the staff, police officers, firefighters, and all those other great city employees that provide service to Cincinnatians.
Well, Mayor, thank you very much. This whole topic of economic development related to rail is going to be with us throughout the entire fall. You'll be back on during the campaign, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this, because this is going to mature in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
And of course, the budget is out there, and that's never easy.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, it's
thank
a
you for being here this morning.
No problem. Thank you.
Stay tuned. After the break, I'll be joined by the leader of one of the most cutting-edge dance troupes in Cincinnati on the eve of their Gala of International Dance Stars. Welcome back. Ballet Tech Cincinnati, which was founded in 1997, is more than a dance troupe. It uses the art of dance as a common language to promote unity and interaction between people of all walks of life. Each year, Ballet Tech features professional and pre-professional dancers in programs that are featuring a very wide variety of dance styles and music. On August the 15th, Ballet Tech will present its annual Gala of International Dance Stars. I am joined this morning by Gentry Davis, the producing artistic director and president of the board of Ballet Tech Cincinnati. Marvel's involvement with dance is lifelong and spans everything from ballet and modern dance to ballroom and almost everything else. In 2003, she was a Post-Corbett Award winner and has won many other awards. Marvel, welcome to Newsmakers.
Thank you.
Ballet Tech, what sets this apart from other ballet companies? What is it that you're trying to accomplish, that you're trying to do?
Well, Dan, I think probably the biggest unique point about our organization is that we are very innovative and diversity is one of our core values. So if you come to a Ballet Tech Cincinnati production, you are going to see on the stage a cast that has many hues. And when you come to our community performances, you'll see people as young as 4 or 5 to over 60 years old, all different sizes and shapes, and different dance styles as well. So our name says ballet, but we actually do all different kinds of dance styles, and then we couple it with a variety of different music styles. So it's extremely diverse in every way.
And your audiences are diverse as well, right?
Well, I think we have the most diverse audience of any local presenter, and it's because we create programming that kind of reaches out to a wide audience, and then we intentionally market and try to draw in a diverse audience. And then when you have a diverse cast, you're going to attract a diverse audience.
So the goal here is not, I mean, the focus is dance in a lot of different forms.
Yes.
But the goal is much broader than that.
The goal is really to bring people together, to give people an opportunity to see that this is a common language, this language of dance that we all can do. And at Ballet Tech, we say everybody can dance.
And even though you and I are friends, you know that that would be a real challenge. No, okay, we won't go there. We won't go there. Okay. Now, one of the things that you do in your year, you have a very extensive program, but one is this international gala, the Gala of International Dance Stars. Tell us about that. It's coming up August the 15th at the Aronoff. This is really a very special thing, right?
The Gala of International Dance Stars is the most fabulous show you will see. It comes once a year, one show only. It is the only international dance gala, professional international dance gala in the entire Midwest or Central U.S. region. So it's very unique, and I'm happy that we can put Cincinnati on the international stage with the Gala of International Dance Stars. We're bringing in this year a dozen wonderful stars from all over the world.
And actually, we have a couple of people. Francesca Harper, I think, is one of the people that we were able to grab an image off your website.
Oh, she's fabulous.
And there she is. And how would you describe what it is that she does?
Francesca is one of these new age artists. She does dance, she does vocal music, she does acting and drama, and she combines all of these art forms into her performance. Now, at the gala, she will be just dancing. However, she does in her company a lot of multimedia productions and a lot of very new edge kinds of work.
And Kelly Saunders is somebody else that I focused on. I found somewhat interesting in the description.
Oh, Kelly is a diva. She formerly danced Theater of Harlem. Now she's a principal dancer with Ballet New York. She is one of the people who has been just an audience pleaser. Her style is wonderful. Her partnering is exquisite. Her extensions, and she's just beautiful on the stage and off.
So we're talking about very high-level people who are going to be in this Gala of International Dance Stars here. These are people from across the country.
Actually, across the world.
Across the world, international.
Yeah, they're international. We've got people coming in that represent countries like Spain, Germany, the Netherlands, Argentina, Canada.
Now, you've done this in the past.
Yes.
How many times? What year?
This is our 8th year.
This is your 8th year. And what kind of audiences? You are in the P&G Theater at the Aronoff. This is a big commitment.
You know what? That's another thing. You know, again, I remember our very first gala. I said, turn up the house lights, look around and see. Have you ever seen in one place the diversity? And the audience started clapping because they had not. Young people, old people, you know, I like to call them the blue-haired ballet ladies, with some kids, 8 or 9 years old, all here to see this fabulous, fabulous athleticism and artistry that these dancers are going to be performing.
You perform at the Aronoff, but where are you headquartered?
Our headquarters are in Kennedy Heights, right in the heart of Kennedy Heights and District A, on Montgomery Road.
Okay.
In a former nightclub that used to be the scene of just all kinds of terrible situations, yes.
So
and we've turned it around.
Real commitment to the city, real
Oh.
commitment to, and your interaction with the mayor between things here is very interesting. So just make sure everybody understands. The Gala of International Dance Stars is on August the 15th at the Aronoff Center. If you would like to learn more about the Gala and Ballet Tech Cincinnati in general, go to their website at ballettechcincinnati, all spelled out, .org. O-R-G. You can order your tickets online, and the tickets range in price from about $42 to about $62.
Yes.
Marvel, thank you for being here. Good luck with the gala, and good luck with just all the work you do through Ballet Tech.
Thank you.
Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week to meet the women and the men shaping our cultural, economic, and civic life for the future. Have a good week.